What's up, guys? Welcome back to this week's Market Watch and Analysis. And it's going to be quite an exciting one this week. A lot of movement in the markets, especially the crypto market. So a very interesting one indeed. So guys, let's get straight into it. And we're going to kick off and look at some news. Look at the crypto news, seeing what's driving the markets. Then I'm going to be touching on a little bit of market analysis, looking at our majors, some forex, and a bit of the stocks. And then we're going to be finishing off right after that. So guys, let's have a look at some news. Those that are following crypto is that Bitcoin has been pushing, okay? This week has just been a great push, and everybody's getting excited again, saying that, you know, Bitcoin is just going to be going to 100K and further. All right. So what are the drivers for that? What are the reasons for it? Well, there seems to be there's a few reasons and few sentiments that has been going around, and one of the points that has been the main circuit, if we head over to CNBC, right, we can see that at the moment Bitcoin is, you know, it's pushed to $55,000 this week, and it has, you know, it's causing that stir. And there's a small, it says here in one of the paragraphs, the rally comes amid a series of small developments in Washington that have provided some comfort to institutional investors keen to jump into crypto companies. See, so I think what is tending and seeing that is that people are seeing the interest come back into crypto and seeing it rise and seeing the push, and that is making people sort of now, and the main investors, the main institutions are going, well, hang on, we want to jump back into the Bitcoin, right? The problem is, you see, what we've been going over is that there's still this regulatory uncertainty, and that's what's keeping investors out of the market. And every time there's a step closer, you know, to making sure is there clarity on that subject, then we start seeing, you know, the price. We move one step forward. Yes, yes, we should be coming towards that regulatory clarity. Then we start seeing the markets move, you know, and started to get that push back into it. So it says here, Bitwise Asset Manager Chief Investment Officer Matt Hogan said, it's the primary driver of next great market in crypto, okay, is about this whole regulatory clarity. So if we have a look through here, one of the points that also strikes the attention is that institutional investors move as a herd. They are momentum chasers. She said when they see this kind of momentum, they start to think, what am I going to miss? Is my performance going to be weaker than those of my competitors? Maybe we should pile into that. So it's giving that attention to everybody, and everybody obviously wants a piece of that pie, and that generally will then start to move the markets. The issue that we're seeing, though, it says here the macro backdrop, okay, at the same time, right, this is what I'm always like to keep my eye on, and not to get caught up in the hype. And that is what is seen, especially when we have the first big drop on crypto. We have the hype where it pushes all up, everybody gets interested in it, everybody then wants to jump on and buy, and then what tends to happen is then you have a crash again. So that is just the uncertainty we need to always stick to. And it says here, at the same time, stocks were falling as concerns about rising rates, which is what we touched on our last one with the dollar and the higher inflation, the state of reopening, and the debt limit dented investor sentiment. So we have Bitcoin and crypto pushing up, and our stocks and, you know, this debt and interest rates are looming in the background, and that's something we need to be concerned about. He said Bitcoin hasn't proven itself to be a safe haven asset. Its price has tanked with the stock market several times before, but many still see it the way it was holding up in Wednesday equity market turmoil. So we need to just keep an eye on that, have that in the back of our minds. We still have that interest rates, which is also coming up in the debt limit, which is the 18th of this month. So we need to keep an eye on that. If we head over to Cointelegraph, another one, BTC price hits 56K as bulls return, and talk focuses on Bitcoin ETF approval. And this is another one of the drivers, right? Is a ETF, a Bitcoin ETF. And what basically it is that Cointelegraph reported confidence is high that a futures-backed Bitcoin ETF will get the go-ahead this month, if not a traditional spot-based product. So this is basically, the driving force, along with people getting interest, the clarity of, regulatory clarity, again with a Bitcoin ETF that is set to go ahead this month. And this is all giving us that push and that sentiment in the crypto at the moment. But there is a bit mixed views on the ETF. And if we jump over to CoinDesk.com, we can see what is a Bitcoin ETF. Okay, so what it is, in simple terms, it allows investors to gain exposure to the leading cryptocurrencies without having actually owned it. So Bitcoin Exchange Traded Fund, which that's what ETF stands for, lets traders gain exposure to BTC via traditional stock markets without needing to directly buy or sell the digital asset on a cryptocurrency exchange. So it is a bit like, for myself, if you trade NASDAQ, I would trade NASDAQ through a broker, and I can buy and sell on the NASDAQ and generate income that way, but I don't necessarily purchase a share or a stock of that company. So I don't purchase shares or stock of Facebook or Netflix or Amazon. I'm just trading the price. And this is what sort of it's doing. The ETF, the talks of ETF is so we can have these big hedge funds, institutions start to get involved without actually purchasing a Bitcoin on exchange. And this is one of the reasons why we can see this push in Bitcoin. So quite a nice article understanding what a Bitcoin ETF is. And investing.com, it says there's another one regarding this ETF, and that is a holds Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. So same sort of thing. It's taken center stage. Everybody's seen cryptocurrencies and they're seeing the markets rise. And just to give you an example, it says here, so far in 2021, Bitcoin is up close to 90% and Ethereum returned 385%. Okay, so just to comparison, those two, the S&P 500 increased 17.8 and NASDAQ returned 26.3. So you can see the difference in returns on those, the reason why institutions and these companies are wanting to jump on the bandwagon, but they are just saying they're a little bit concerned with the regulatory aspects of it. We obviously know crypto in China, big problem there. They're wanting to ban and close anything to do with crypto. And my last video, we touched on as well, China's, at the moment, they're going through a bit of turmoil with the power shortages, and that's causing all the stock markets. So we need to keep in our back of our mind that we have the stock markets, the debt ceiling, we have the interest rates, that is all looming there, and crypto is going up. And generally, they have been, if we're going to have the crash on the markets, in the stock markets, we need to be a little bit concerned. They could follow, and we've seen a flow from, let's just jump into this next one and then we can go through to it where it shows what is actually happening. So there's also talk of Soros Fund Management CEO confirms the Billionaires Investors Family Office is trading Bitcoin. So again, all these guys, institutions, these fund managers are wanting to jump and seeing the returns and they don't want to let it up, okay? So it says here, the coins themselves are less interesting than the use cases of DeFi, its CEO told Bloomberg. So quite a great article, marketsbusinessinsider.com, and Soros Fund Management CEO, one of the headlines I've seen this week that, again, it's giving people confidence. All these big guys are wanting to get onto the bandwagon, but we need to always step a little lightly. Don't get too overconfident and think, well, I'm just going to put my money on Bitcoin now. Even though it's high, it's just going to keep on going up. We always need to step a little lightly on this type of subject. So this was the one, I think, in news.bitcoin.com. And it says JP Morgan, institutional investors dump gold for Bitcoin, seeing it has a better inflation hedge. So generally what happens when we see this turmoil with China, the stocks and shares are coming down, the dollar and the debt and the interest rates are looming in the background. What happens is then the confidence, the money starts to flow out of those into gold. Generally, gold is a safe haven, but we're seeing now that it even says that people are taking money out of gold and putting it back into Bitcoin. And these are the reasons why we're seeing Bitcoin having this push in this last week. It says, and very interesting point where I saw the amount, it says here, according to the firm, more than $10 billion has flowed out of gold exchange traded funds, ETFs, since the beginning of the year. During the same period, more than 20 billion has flowed into Bitcoin funds. So we're having this, the safe haven, which was gold, is now people are saying, let's put it into cryptocurrencies. But again, we need to be understanding the risk. You know, there's always talk of this looming of a regulatory, clarity of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general. So we just need to keep that lightly, not just seeing, well, all this news just seems positive, all these big guys are going to jump in on the bandwagon, Bitcoin and crypto is just going to be going up. We need to, that could also be a trap, they've done that in the past. They're getting people hyped up into it, and then that is putting people's money into it. They want to get that liquidity capital, and then they can turn around and change the price direction, and it could fall. It can still happen. So good article about showing that the money's coming out of gold now and going into Bitcoin. This one was quite a bit of a reason why I want to touch on this one. It's quite an unusual one, but the reason why is it affected pretty much the whole world. And that was what happened to Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. We saw this week there was literally a blackout, and people couldn't log on to Facebook. WhatsApp wasn't working. Obviously, they own the three companies, sister companies. And what they're saying is that there was an outage with the internet, basically. It says the internet breaks down into hundreds of thousands of networks. Big firms like Facebook have their own large networks known as autonomous systems. So they're saying that what affected the outages, so suddenly stopped providing information the system needed to function. It meant nobody's computer had any way of connecting to Facebook or its other sites. So the failure of such key internet players had a knock-on effect on individuals and businesses across the globe. So a lot of people have been saying, well, it was actually quite nice not having these services and it was out. But again, there's also small businesses. It says for many, losing access to Facebook services was just an inconvenience. But for some small businesses in the developing world, without other reliable ways to communicate with customers, it may have been a serious problem. And that's what, the people are relying on advertising their products, selling on marketplace, and it could be a bit of a concern. The problem is, I don't know if this is a real story. That is the thing. Our feeling that they might be covering up something. And the reason why is also, if I jump to this, there was a whistleblower, Facebook whistleblower, Frances Horgan, and it says she was a former product manager that worked for Facebook for 2 years. She was saying that she has came to to the Wall Street Journal with a whole lot of documents and showing Facebook stories regarding bits and pieces behind the social media company, is that they're obviously more concerned about money than people's lives. One of the stories touched on was, if they're going to be putting out sensitive, let's say, information to viewers, they're rather interested in how many people are going to click on it than what that actual image or the information does physically or personally to someone's life. So she's come out with all the stories and documents, and that also could have led to something in the background in terms of this blackout. But they could be hiding something. We never know. I just don't see how you would think these big companies would have something like that backed up, so they don't have this blackout ever happening. So to something interesting, and the reason why it was funny is that we had it was just the whole world was sort of, we were lights out, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. So something interesting to have a look at for this week. And again, this whistleblower could be a bit of the reason as well behind it. But we would never know. So guys, that's a bit of the news I want to touch on. Obviously, Bitcoin is going up. A few reasons behind that, and I want to jump into this week's market analysis. And first things first, let's have a look at the dollar index before I jump into our major cryptos. And dollar index, currently we have sort of completed this big W, this W pattern, and we've come up to an area of resistance. So what I personally see and what could be seen, we had NFP, which is non-farm payroll, on Friday, and still negative for dollar. More job loss claims as well, and that is slowly increasing. We have again that debt ceiling coming, the interest rates, all that news looming coming in towards the middle of October. What is going to happen? Are we going to have a disastrous fall for the dollar? Possibly. So what I see happening for the dollar, if we are going to have another push up, I don't think it's going to last. This high here currently, what I'm seeing is that we're going to be pushing through this 95 region and possibly coming into the mid-range of around 95,250, 95,200, and then from there having the fall down. If we look at the daily time frame, same thing, we're still bullish on the daily. We have these areas here, okay? You can see we had the breakout, as mentioned in my last week's video. We could have the retest, which we did. We had the push up. We are showing a bit of resistance here, and we could start to see that fall, but we could again have this. If I take this away, we have this resistance here, okay, this high, and we could take out this high first. So push this high first back up into the 95 region, and then from there see the drop down into these areas. That's what I'm hoping for the dollar, and possibly further, and especially with all this news and negative news around the dollar, we could see that fall. So first of all, we are still bullish, so we should be still looking for our cross currencies like Euro USD, AUD USD to be coming down. So if that's bullish, dollar is going to be pushing up, our cross currency is going to be coming down. But I want to see a longer term, my dollar now starting to come down from these highs, all the way down to around 91. So then my cross currency pair will be going up. Okay, so that is my dollar outlook. Push possibly back into 95, 200 before we have a big drop to the downside. So let's look at our BTC first of all, cryptocurrency, and have a look at this pair, see where we are, where we come from, and let's start on the weekly time frame. And you can see this was the 2 weeks we've been pushing up, very strong dollar. I mentioned in our last video is that we could come to around 52 region, which we can see we've blasted through, and now we've come up to these highs. So we've broken this weekly high. Okay, we've broken this area, and we are now coming back up to these highs over there. So we're stuck in the middle. We are still in an area of sensitivity. What do I mean by that? Price in this area can still start to turn around and make its way down. Okay, we can still do that. It doesn't mean that just because we've broken this, we're just going to carry on through. Okay, past 60,000. That definitely does not mean that. Daily time frame, we can see we're sitting above this area here. Okay, and what I see, if we're going to continue this bullishness, is we're going to come above these two equal highs here and possibly come into this area of around 61, roughly around 61, 62 region, and then from there have the pullback. So let's just see what happens. But for now, if you're wanting to get into Bitcoin, what should be the correct way to do it? Well, I think for now, let's look at the 65 EMA. I wouldn't want to rush it at the top here. I would wait to see, do we get a pullback into these areas, possibly 48 region, and then look for our bars around this region, even lower, 46, and then seeing price push up to the highs of around 60, 61. Okay, so that's my intermediate outlook for Bitcoin. If you're wanting to get in now for a bit of a buy, I wouldn't get in here. I would wait for that pullback for the push to the 60,000 mark. From there, we will then have to see and what is the situation from there. But currently, we're bullish. I want to wait for that pullback, 48, 45 region possibly, and then see that spark up into 60. But right now, we could even push up from this region. We broke the high. We could see that push into the 60,000 this coming weeks. But we need to see what happens. As mentioned, we are still in a sensitive area. Let's jump over to Ethereum. And Ethereum, same thing. We are at the highs. Still sticking to my outlook of if we're wanting to get into a buy, we need to make sure, are we going to pull back to this region? Or is it going to be creating that support? If so, we could then look at our intermediate buys and then seeing a push back up to 4,000, possibly 3.8 for now. And then from there, we can reassess the situation. But we are still coming back up to this highs. Price could come down. If we break below these areas and below the 65 EMA here, then I will then reassess, and that could mean price could be falling a bit more and not yet going up. So Ethereum, same as outlook. XRP seems to be held. We are under the 1 point handle for ages. We can see we've been sitting here just going sideways, but it looks like now we are ready to push, and XRP is going to catch up like Bitcoin had that push. We're most likely going to see the push up to around 1.25, 1.3 for XRP. From there, we then need to reassess, because the reason why, we have this left shoulder possibly playing out. We have a head, and the right shoulder could come through here. So price could push back into this area, and from here we could see a dip even lower. So doesn't mean we're just going to be going bull run, but our intermediate, we can, yes, be looking for buys. XRP, we are still low. So from here, I want to then see this price push up to our 1.3 region. Okay, so guys, let's jump over to, I wanted to see those three major cryptos. Then one of the currency pairs I want to look at that I've been following this week is the Aussie dollar. And what do I see on the Aussie dollar? So if I'm wanting that dollar to push down, as mentioned, if we're on the highs, we want to see dollar come down. That will mean that our we're wanting the our currency pair to be pushing up. So looking at the AUD USD, if I'm wanting that dollar to come down, if we look at where we are currently sitting now for the Aussie dollar, we can see that these highs over here, price is pushed into this liquidity area. Okay, it's taken out that liquidity and we could see the drop. All right, but on the 4-hour time frame, this is my setup that I'm looking to trade. Is we can see we've taken out that liquidity. We're wanting to see price go up further. Okay, we can see our structure here, our pullback, higher low. We've made a higher high, and I'm wanting to see now price move up to even higher. Okay, we have a left shoulder, we have a head over here, we even have a right shoulder, inverse head and shoulders. And what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting price to come back to the 65 EMA and looking at a buy around the 72,500 region. Okay, looking for that short-term buy and wanting price to at least push up to my 74 handle for Aussie dollar, US dollar. So that is my setup I'm going to be looking for this week. One on our Forex pair and going forward from there. So BTC, if you're wanting to looking for the interim, yes, we are bullish, all right, but what is going to be doing? What are we going to be doing? We're at that sensitive area. I would want to see price have a pullback first. This is the 4-hour time frame for BTC, and we want to see a pullback first. We are very high. Yes, price from this area could push up to our 60,000, okay, up at this E region here. But if you're wanting to get a better risk and a better reward, you want to wait for price to pull back into these regions, possibly 46, 44, and then seeing price push up to the upside. Ethereum, same thing. We want to see that pullback on the 4-hour, and we want to see a pullback. You see, wanting to come back into that 3,000 mark, and then seeing a pushback up to the 3.8. Currently bullish. You don't want to be buying here, really. I want to wait for that pullback to confirm, are we going to be then ready to go up, or we're going to carry on dropping. So you want to always buy at the low, sell at the high, for a max risk to reward. So BTC, Ethereum, Ripple, we can see that bullish push this week continuing, but BTC, Ethereum are still quite high. We want to wait for that pullback, as mentioned. XRP, we are still low, and I could see that extend from where we're sitting now, 1.1. We could see that push to 1.3 without having a pullback. So from here, we are still quite low. We're at the support. If we want to buy now, probably is a good time. And then I would then hold to at least our 1.25 and then 1.3 region for XRP. I want to jump into NASDAQ. Then from NASDAQ, I want to touch on one of the shares that I mentioned in our first video, Naspers, one to watch, one stock to buy. Well, very low, so I will jump into that shortly. But looking at NASDAQ, with all the concerns, with the China, with the stocks and shares falling, what is NASDAQ doing? Are we buying? Are we selling? Well, if we look at our higher time frame, right? Let's look at the daily time frame. We can see our 65 EMA, all right? We have broken below it. We have retested it, but I'm seeing us come slightly higher. And as mentioned last video, around 15,100, 15,200, I would like to then sell and see a further decline in price. But intermediate, what do you want to do? Well, we have broken these highs. We have broken these highs. We've taken out these highs. We've made this higher high. I want to see price come back into our about 4,600 mark. This would be a nice point, and then seeing price rally up into these zones, taking out these equal highs over here, and then possibly seeing that big sell-off. So NASDAQ, my overall, I'm looking for sells, but intraday this week, I'm wanting to catch that bar, possibly a 14,600, 14,500 to then see a pushback into our 15,100 mark. And then from there, we'll have to recess it further. So NASDAQ for now, this week, we can look for that buy. If we have the support around this area, if I look at my Fibonacci, we had a very good point. You can see my 71, 78 region. This is where I am wanting to be buying again for that one more push up to our 15,200, 15,100 mark. You can see where my line lines up there with this red bar. So NASDAQ intermediate, we want to look for that bar before a sell-off. But if we get that support and confirmation, we're not just going to buy here. We need to wait, because price from here could fall all the way and take us unguarded. So NASDAQ looking for that bar. And going into that stock share that I spoke about, which is Naspers. Now, it is a huge South African tech company, and it has done year after year very, very well. But we are very, very low still. And my first video, I said very, very good time to buy because we were very low. So having a look at the price when we come back into it, let's go to the weekly time frame. You guys will see in terms of where we're sitting, and we are at a very good all-time low and a very good price in order to jump in for a trade or a long-term hold on this stock or trade. So let's look at the weekly time frame. Let me zoom out, and you can see since the January 2020, right, price was low, right, and now we've come all the way down there. So since last year, 2021, we are sitting at these lows, and you can just see how we have just been going up all the way. 2016, 2017, 2018, even though we had that pullback in 2018, price is still pushed up. Okay, we've put all the way back up to 38. Now we are very, very low back into this trend line that I have here. So still a good share to get into, Naspers Limited. And from here, I'm wanting to hold the price past our all-time high 38 and even further. So very, very good stock share to be looking at. This company has done very, very, very well. So that's it for my analysis part of the crypto and the currency pair I'm going to be looking at this week, AUD, USD, NASDAQ, that intermediate buy up to that 15,100, 15,200 region, and then possibly looking for a sell. Coin that I've been tracking and following, done amazing things as well. And I said last week, we look like we are ready to explode. Okay, we look like we're ready to explode in this coin. If I look at the indicator and I put on my moving averages, okay, and we look at our 21-day moving average, we can see we are sitting just, let's move to the 4-hour time frame. Okay, you can see how we have had that fake out to the bottom. We've now pushed right above it. We've come up to this resistance. We are, the 21-day moving average is below it, okay, and we want to now see this breakout. Are we going to get this breakout from this resistance? Most likely we could possibly see price come back into this region of around 0.23, okay, 0.23, where I would like to buy. So have that little small pullback, 0.23, then seeing price, so price pulling back 0.23, breaking out the 3 region, 0.3, having that retest as the 21-day moving average comes around, and then having our buy. So we could have our first buy here, going in small, and then having possibly our second buy here, and then from here we can then see a pullback and possibly going up to our 0.44, 0.42. So that's what I'm looking at currently for the Alice coin. It's ready to, you know, it looks like the bottom is tapped out, and we're now ready to have that push to the upside. And again, guys, going back to Alice coin, it is backed, okay, by a public company. And if we have a look at the Alice capital, so let's just go back to the Alice International, which is the actual stock. Wait for this to load. So just wait for that to load. Let me jump over to Alice International, the Twitter page, and it is a acquisitions company. Okay, they committed to innovation and growth. They focus on acquiring global businesses in tech, engineering, and manufacturing. They provide life-saving equipment to different companies and services, and that's what they do. They are different patents. You can see the fire trucks, equipment, firebug, rapid response, firefighting vehicles. So they're acquisitions company, and the Alice coin, right, is a spin-off of that, and you are actually investing. So if you go to alicecoin.com and you have a look, the Alice coin will help you to provide critical life and earth-saving technology and equipment to the people and places that really need it and who can't afford it in the form of a lease contract. So it helps to the world meet a social responsibility and the growth of Alice National. So when you're investing in the Alice coin, right, when you're investing in this Alice coin, you are investing in an asset, okay, backed by a, you know, helping people, a helping life-saving equipment, and you are doing good. So it is a real asset that you are investing into. So let's look at the stock. It is lows now, and we can see we've had that huge push to the upside as we did in our last video. We are coming down slowly to the 65 EMA, where we could then possibly look for that buy on that long term 0.2, and then seeing a push back up to our highs of around 0.45. So the stock has done phenomenal, and again, that is backed, right, by the, you know, acquisitions company. Stock's done extremely well, and then the coin, you are investing in that asset, you know, investing in the assets with the leasing of the equipment and doing good and helping the world. So a great product. So Alice coin, I'm waiting for this now, possible small back and explosion to the upside, and seeing that growth in the coin, and to follow this stock price of Alice International. But for now, we could see the push up to the highs, but for me, I want to wait for a bit more of a pullback, 0.2, and then get and jump back into the Alice stock. So Alice coin ready for that push up. Alice International stock price, waiting for it to come a little bit lower so we can head into that. But head over to the Twitter page, Alice International, alicecoin.com as well, just to read up a bit about that information. So guys, that's it for this week. All right, crypto, you can see that news is positive. That's why we're having that push in prices at the moment. But just stay safe on that. We are still at the highs, all right? We want to wait for the pullback, wait for the confirmed buys for that intermediate on BTC, Ethereum, and Ripple. And we have then our NASDAQ wanting that buy this week, intermediate, up to 15,200. AUD, USD, if you're into FX, I'm looking for that slight pullback, inverse head and shoulders, waiting for that breakout to a higher price. And if we can have that swing on dollar, and waiting for that push down for dollar. So that's it, guys. Trade safe, and I will catch you on the next one.